Critical thinking in group coaching sessions. Imagine this, you're facilitating a group coaching session with 8 entrepreneurs. One participant shares that networking is a waste of time based on their experience. Immediately you notice different reactions around the room. A few people nodding in agreement, others looking skeptical, one person seems almost offended. In that moment, how do you foster critical thinking around the participants without creating conflict? How do you turn this into a rich learning opportunity rather than a debate where people just defend their positions? In a group coaching setting, critical thinking becomes both more challenging and more powerful and rewarding. When done well, you're not just helping one person examine their thinking, you're creating an environment where multiple perspectives enrich everyone's understanding. But there's definitely an art to this. Today, I'll show you how to create group dynamics that promote critical thinking while keeping the environment supportive and productive. Critical thinking in group settings requires a special approach. You're facilitating productive dialogue, helping clients acknowledge different viewpoints, and creating an environment where ideas can be challenged constructively without anyone feeling attacked. The Open University Guide highlights several important elements for critical thinking in group settings. Acknowledge other viewpoints before challenging them. Be constructive rather than dismissive when offering alternative perspectives. Reflect on strengths in others' arguments, not just weaknesses. Be mindful of your language to avoid inadvertently offending others. In group coaching, you'll need to establish ground rules that make critical thinking safe and productive. You'll need to model critical thinking yourself through the questions that you ask. You'll need to facilitate respectful exploration of different perspectives. You're going to need to guide the group towards synthesis rather than debate. That's sort of coming together to a common aim. You're going to need to balance participation so diverse thinking styles are represented. Let the quiet ones speak. The goal isn't to have the group reach consensus, but to help everyone expand their own thinking by considering multiple perspectives. Let's see how this plays out in a real group coaching scenario. Example 1, establishing critical thinking ground rules. Before we dive in, I'd like to suggest a few guidelines for our discussion. Let's approach each other's ideas with genuine curiosity. When you hear something you disagree with, get interested rather than defensive. Ask questions like, can you tell me more about how you came to that conclusion? Or what experiences have you had that shape that perspective? This helps us all learn more than if we just debate who's right. Example 2, modeling critical thinking through your questions. When a participant says, networking is a waste of time, you might respond, that's an interesting perspective. I'm curious to understand more about your experience with networking. What specific approaches have you tried? That's exploring the evidence. And to the group, I'd love to hear different experiences with networking around the room. Has anyone found approaches that have been particularly valuable for them? What made the difference? That's introducing multiple perspectives. Let's see if we can identify what elements make networking effective or ineffective rather than just deciding if it works or doesn't. Guide them towards synthesis, a common outcome. Example 3, facilitating exploration of different viewpoints. I'm noticing we have some different perspectives here, which is amazing. It's fantastic. Sarah sees social media marketing as essential, while John has found it distracting. Instead of deciding who's right, let's get curious. What contexts or situations might make social media marketing more or less effective? What factors determine its value for different businesses? This way, everyone can walk away with a more nuanced understanding that applies to their specific situation. Example 4, guiding synthesis of perspectives. We've heard several different approaches to time management today. Rather than trying to choose the best one, let's see if we can identify principles that seem to work across different methods. What common elements do you notice in the approaches that resonate with you? How might you combine elements from different strategies to create something that works for your specific challenges? Now, it's your turn to apply critical thinking in group settings. Here's what I want you to take away. Create a structure for introducing critical thinking in groups. Establish clear ground rules at the beginning. Model the approach through your questions and responses. Use structured exercises that encourage multiple perspectives. Guide the group towards synthesis rather than debate. Develop prompts that encourage groups to think critically. So here's some examples. What assumptions are we making here? What other perspectives haven't we considered? How might someone with a different background view this? What evidence supports this approach? What evidence challenges it? And now it's your turn. Design a 15-minute group exercise that encourages critical thinking about a common coaching topic like goal setting or time management, leadership, work-life balance. Create a set of ground rules for critical thinking that you could introduce at the beginning of a group coaching program. Write down 3 strategies for handling situations where group members become defensive rather than thoughtfully critical. Remember, the magic of group coaching is that participants can learn as much from each other as they do from you, but only if you create an environment where diverse perspectives are explored thoughtfully rather than defended rigidly. If you've got any questions or thoughts about your critical voice in a coaching context, pop them in the comments section. I'd love to hear you get on using these principles in your coaching. Good luck, everyone. Cheers.